All right, if you're watching this video, you probably want to make better ads. And in fact, if you don't, this is not the video for you. So go ahead and click away from this video if you don't want to make better ads. I don't want to waste your time. So without further ado, there's not going to be any fancy editing in this, no jump cuts, no feel good quotes or anything like that. I'm going to provide you with value. So if you're looking for those things instead, this is not going to be the video for you. So without further ado, what are the main things, in my experience, from what I've seen, that can cause your ads to not perform as well? So these issues, I want to start off by saying this. I don't know your specific business. This is general information, right? It doesn't apply directly to your specific business because I don't know your specific business regardless. And sometimes these issues can be very complex, right? And it can take a very high level of skill to spot these issues. And it takes context oftentimes to figure out what the issues are. So in other words, if I look at somebody's ad account, right, and they're running all these crazy campaigns that make no sense, I can look at that and within about 2 seconds know what the problem is. Or if I look at their ads that they're running, I can look at that and quickly figure out, hey, this is probably the issue right here. Most likely this is the issue by just a quick look in their account because I'm skilled at this. I've been doing this for years now. But if you hadn't been doing it for years or you don't have that level of skill and you've never seen these problems, you don't know how to spot them necessarily. So anyways, what are the common problems that can cause your ads to stop performing as well? First issue that is probably the most likely problem. Now, there's a million things it could be, really. I mean, there's practically a million things it could be. I mean, it could be your product is priced wrong. It could be you have a product issue in general. It could be some minute detail on your website. Like, for example, the shipping methods have messed up and now it's showing a different default shipping box because somebody messed with the shipping. Somebody in the staff accidentally selected the wrong shipping box. I mean, it could be something minor like that. I'm not kidding. It can be the smallest thing that's causing your ads to not perform as well. And so that's why it takes a high level of skill to solve these problems oftentimes. Sometimes it's simple. Sometimes it may not be as simple solving these issues. So the first thing is going to be your creatives. In Facebook or Meta, as it's often called, in Facebook or Meta, as it's often called, your creatives largely do the targeting. So you don't have to go in and set these targeting settings and everything to be able to target people. You can target them with your ad creatives themselves. So basically the way it works is they have a very, very advanced algorithm. The technology that they use on Facebook is extremely advanced. So when you are uploading something, it scans that with a computer system. Basically, it's a computer like image scanning system. I don't know the exact technical name off the top of my head, but essentially what it does is this digital system or whatever you want to call it scans what it is that you're uploading, and it will take that data. Basically, it will figure out like what it is that you are showing, right? So if you got a woman and she's got a purse, for example, it's going to scan that data and it see that, and it will use that information to figure out who to show the ads to. So your ads do the targeting. Now, if you've got text in there that says this product is for women who like makeup, or something like that, just off the top of my head, it's going to take that text and it's going to use that text to figure out who to show the ads to. So, for example, if you're selling a fitness product, maybe, for example, in your hook, you might want to test saying something like, this product is for fitness people, guys that go to the gym, whatever, right? This is just an example. I'm not saying you should use that hook, but this is just an example of what I'm talking about. So you need to understand how to make good ad creatives. Now, with Andromeda, creative diversity has become more and more important. In other words, what you often want to be testing is different formats of ads, whether that is image ads versus video ads, whether it is different formats of video ads, different lengths, different faces, different styles of ads, and you want vastly different ads. If you were to take all your ads, for example, and let's say you want to make all the ads yourself, right? And so your creatives, let's say, for example, your audience that you can market to is something like this. Now, I'm going to give you an example that I got from a call a little while back. I was on a call with a guy who is a very well-known guy in the marketing space, a very, very, very skilled marketer in the marketing space. Shout out to him. But I was on a call with him and then another guy who is also an influencer, who's semi-famous, I guess you could say. And he asked in this call, he's like, do you know what pocket theory is? Right? He was talking about pocket theory. And I was like, yes. Basically, from my understanding, it is when different faces in the ads are being shown to different people, essentially. That was the simple way I explained it. And he said, yes, that's exactly correct. And he gave this example to show both of us on the call what he was talking about. He went into detail of this, and I'm just going to kind of give you the general overview of what he was showing us. So in this example here, we got, let's say, for example, you got a guy that likes to fish, right? So this is the number of people that can essentially see that ad from that guy that likes to fish. Now then over here, you got a guy that likes to hunt maybe. And he wears camo and everything. And so this would essentially be the audience that can see that ad. So this is the people you can market to, right? This is the audience that can see this ad. This is the audience that can see this ad. And then now we got a woman, right? So let's say, for example, we get a woman. She's a different age group. Here's the audience that she could see, just for example. This is roughly how he was explaining this concept. And I thought it was a great way to show, because you may have a big market of people you can market to. But say, for example, right here, you want to be the face of every ad. And so this is the market that you can reach with you being the face of the ads because of how you look, essentially. So this is your market right here that you can reach. Now look at all these other people right here in this example that you can't reach because you are the face of all the ads. So some people may say, well, I want to be the face of all the ads. I want to shoot all my own ads. Well, you're leaving potential revenue out the door, because the way the algorithm works is it's taking your face to figure out who to show the ads to, right? It's taking all the data about you to figure out who to show the ads to, right? And it can figure out, it's very, very smart at figuring out who that is, like who it is that needs to see those ads. And it's largely based on the faces in the ads, and so different faces, different personas of people can appeal to different people, right? So that is this concept called pocket theory, essentially, right here. That was kind of roughly how he explained it, and I thought it was really good. So anyways, the next thing here is, when we're talking about this stuff, right, what goes into good ad creatives, right? And so it's not just different faces and the ads, and how the ads largely do the targeting. You got to have a few good things inside the ad for the ad to be good and for the ad to convert, right? And so the first thing is you need a hook. So you need a hook, and then you need, let's see here, we're going to need a body. Just ignore my drawing right here. And then you need a CTA. All right, you can't really see that, but you get the point. So you need a hook, you need a body, and you need a CTA. By the way, I did not go to school to be an artist. As you can clearly see here, this is not my skill set. Whoops. All right, let's scroll over just a little bit. But anyways, my point here is you need a hook in the ad, a good hook that appeals to the right type of person. So you don't just want a hook that gets a lot of attention. You want a hook that calls out or is super specific to the type of person you were trying to attract in that ad. So for example, let's just say, trying to think of an example, a good example off the top of my head. So let's say you like to work out, right? In that hook, do you think you want to show some woman with a purse walking around who's attractive? Would that be relevant to somebody who wants to work out, who's buying a product for fitness? No. because the visuals that you are using are not relevant, right? Or say, for example, you want to sell protein powder. Let's say you're selling protein powder and you want to put these women who are really pretty, they're dressed nice, and you want to do these expensive photo shoots where they dance around and then they say your brand name or something. Do you think that that's going to convert? No, because what you were showing is maybe driving attention, maybe it's getting likes, maybe people are paying attention to it and engaging, but they're engaging for the wrong reason. So it's probably not going to convert very well because you're not selling them on the actual benefits. You're just getting attention. And attention doesn't by itself, attention can translate to sales, but attention by itself and the wrong type of attention does not equal sales. You don't want attention. You want the right type of attention to buy whatever it is that you want to sell them. And in order to get the right type of attention, you have to attract the right type of attention with what it is that you're doing. So first, we start off with our hook. The hook's job is to attract the attention of the right type of person. If you are interested in supplements and you like working out, you are big into going to the gym, and I say, this is for the gym bros out there, who do you think is going to listen to that? Is it going to be the gym bros, or is it going to be girls that like painting? Who's going to resonate with that hook? The gym bros, right? And so you want a hook that calls out the type of person who you're trying to attract. And then you want to get even more granular here. The style of your ad, you want to think about and get inside the mind of the person who you were trying to market to. So for example, if I'm marketing to a blue collar guy, the type of visuals that I'm showing in that ad may be vastly different than if I'm selling luxury jewelry. Blue collar guy, I may be using these sort of playful fonts. I may be almost making the ads a little bit intentionally ugly to try to appeal to them. And now if I'm selling luxury jewelry, I probably don't want to necessarily do that, right? I may use these more high quality, up close shots of the jewelry and in really researching what are the main things that they care about. I'd be doing deep research to figure out what the main things are that the people actually care about who are buying that jewelry, right? So it all comes down to who you are marketing to, with the styles of editing that you're using, the formats and everything else. Next, you got your body. With the body of the ad, what do you want to do? Well, you have to, one, you get their attention with a hook. And then with the body, what you're doing is you're essentially selling them on the product, right? You have to make them want to care because people don't, if they've never heard of you, if they don't know who you are, they don't know what your brand is, they're not going to have a reason to care. You have to make them want to care. And attention is very hard to get when people are constantly being bombarded with stuff on social media, right? You may get bombarded with 50 million things, 50 million notifications or whatever it is. Right now, while you're watching this video, you may start getting texts, you may start getting calls, you may have somebody messaging you about something or whatever it is, getting some kind of SMS message. And it's the same way when you're on social media. It is a fight over people's attention. That's basically what it is these marketers are basically fighting. They're clawing to get people's attention because they know the better they can do that, the more money they can make, right? And it's very difficult to do that. It's getting more and more competitive in a sense to be able to do that effectively, right? Because more people are starting to sell stuff online, and then especially as we get into the holiday season, right now at the time I'm recording this, it's going to start to get more competitive also because more people are going to start spending more on ads. So you got your body, right? You got your hook, you got your body, and then you got your call to action. So what does the call to action do? The call to action is what drives them home. And so you start off with your hook, you get their attention, you show them the body. Typically, I would say benefits in order of importance. So most important, second most important, third most important, for instance. So starting off based on what you know, what is the order of importance of those benefits that you are showing them? And have you really looked into, for example, reviews? Reviews are a great place to figure out what actually makes somebody buy. So you're going to show them the benefits in an engaging way. You want fast-paced clips typically to keep their attention. You want them to almost trigger dopamine, right? You want it to be engaging to watch. You want those clips to not be boring. And then you want your CTA, your call to action that drives them home. Now, the least people are going to be watching at the end, but they're going to be typically high intent because they've watched till the end of the video. So you got to keep in mind when you're making your ad that not everybody's going to watch till the very end. They may watch a half of your ad, a quarter of your ad. So you want to get those points off quick that are the most important. Really, by the end of the first 3 to 5 seconds, ideally, they should already have a good idea of what it is that you're selling and what it does, because most people are going to start dropping off after that point. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, lastly, that was just next, I should say, that was just a brief overview of what makes good ads, right? And the other thing is some people, they're great behind a camera, and some people like myself, for example, they don't have that natural skill set, right? I'm not naturally gifted behind the camera to where I can just, speak very, speak very well, be very well spoken with my words and give these, great speeches and everything. That's not my skill set, right? I understand the strategy and stuff that goes into it, but I don't have that natural skill set for like acting and being able to make, skits and stuff like that. That's not really my skill set personally. Now, not to say I couldn't learn it, but it's just not my natural skill set. We're all different. You may have that skill set or you may not. Some people, they are better at being behind the camera. And oftentimes the people who are really good behind the camera and good at getting attention, they may struggle with some of the other stuff that the people who aren't as good with that are able to do very well. So me, for example, I can strategize. I can look at ads and figure things out and start to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together, right? But me getting in front of the camera and making like a skit or a funny video, that may not necessarily be my skill set. And that's okay. We're all different. So the next thing we got here is ad fatigue. What is ad fatigue? Ad fatigue is when people are seeing the same ads over and over and over, basically, and they stop being effective. Imagine I come up to you and I say, hey, I got this cool new product right here, this shaker bottle or whatever. And it's got this unique feature. It's got a storage compartment or whatever, right? And you're like, wow, that's cool. And so you're interested the first day I tell you about this. Then I come up and I say the same thing again. This may be kind of a bad example because this would probably fit more into the messaging, but you'll get my point here in a second. So I come up to you again and I say the same thing. And you're like, oh, that's cool, but you already told me about that. And then I come up to you again and again and again and again. Eventually, you're going to get sick of hearing that, right? Because I'm saying the same thing over and over in the same way. You're seeing the same thing over and over. Ad fatigue is kind of the same way because with ad fatigue, you're seeing the same ads over and over. So it's a little different, but it's pretty similar. So with ad fatigue, you're seeing the same ads over and over. Eventually, those ads are no longer interesting. And so what are some telltale signs of ad fatigue? So I would say, let's see if we can switch to this. So CPA, just ignore my handwriting. I'm not an artist here. Your CPA, what will happen to it is it will drop oftentimes. It'll start to creep up, or not drop, I should say. It will go up. So your CPA will get worse. Okay, so that's the first telltale sign to keep it simple. If you see your CPAs and they're just climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, could be a sign of ad fatigue. It's very possible. Now, how long do your ads usually last? It really depends on a lot of things. And this is where this stuff is very nuanced. It's very complex, and it takes, once again, a high level of skill to be able to spot these things and know what you're looking for. So you could, in some cases, have ads that last for 6 months, a year, even longer in some cases. Or you could have ads that fatigue in a month or two, or even quicker in some cases if you're spending, lots of money, for example. Or let's say they're like these static ads that only appeal to a very small audience. I mean, it's very nuanced. So it really depends on a number of different factors on how long these ads actually last and everything. But long story short, how you can spot ad fatigue: bad CPAs, your CPAs start to go up. I would say another telltale sign is what you will also possibly see is your hook rate will start to drop. So if you've looked at hook rate, for example, on videos, your hook rate, let's say you've got a winning ad, it's coming in at 40, 50%, very strong hook rate, right? And so you're coming in at a 40, 50% hook rate. Generally, that's a good sign. If you have a relevant hook that's speaking to a specific person that you were trying to target, and you're coming in with a strong hook like that, that's generally a good sign. I would say it's a good sign at least. Doesn't mean the rest of the ad will work, but that's at least a good sign. So let's say your hook rate is 40, 50%, and then after 3 months, 6 months, all of a sudden it's going down to 30%, and then it's down to 20, and then it's 10, 15%. People may not be engaging as well with those ads, or it may not be found as engaging anymore because they've seen the ads. It's already exhausted the audience of people who would see that ad and be interested. Now, what about your CPMs? Another sign is maybe, for example, your CPMs start to climb. So this can happen around the holiday season too, and like busier peak seasons. So you got to keep that in mind. But let's say, for example, the CPMs start going way up. That could be a sign as well. Let's say your frequency starts going way up. That could be a sign as well. So there's several different signs of ad fatigue that you can look at to see, why it is that your ads are not working as well anymore. And then lastly, this one's kind of similar to ad fatigue in terms of like ad related stuff. This is the last one: messaging fatigue. So what is this? Very similar to ad fatigue, but this is going to be a little bit different. So let's say I come up to you and I got this product and I say, hey, I got this cool product. It's got a compartment or whatever to put your protein, or whatever it may be. It's this shaker bottle with a cool storage compartment. And you're like, wow, that's cool. And then the next day I say it in the same way. I say the same thing in the same way and tell you the same thing, essentially. Eventually, you're going to get worn out of that. Just like with ad fatigue, where you get worn out of seeing the same ads, with messaging fatigue, you're getting worn out of hearing the same thing, probably from the same person too. So messaging comes down to what you're saying in the ads. So if you're saying the same things in the same ways in every single ad, especially if it's by the same person, you may get sick of seeing that, right? If I'm seeing one face on every single ad, hearing one voice in every single ad, then that can affect the results of the ads. Very well could. And so the way you fix that is very simple. You put other faces in the ads and you have them say different things or say the same thing in a different way. So say, for example, when we're talking about messaging fatigue, this more so comes back to what's being said, or the text, for example, how you're saying things. But let's say, for example, I'm trying to sell you this shaker bottle right here, and I've came up to you the past 5 days and said, hey, check out this shaker bottle. It's got these features. Buy now. You're going to get worn out of seeing that. But then the next day I come up and I say it in a different way. I'm telling you a story. I'm like, hey, so I call it out in a different way, or whatever. I'm talking about the story about how I started the brand. I'm like, hey, by the way, this shaker brand, I've been telling you about this, but I started this brand because of this and this. And you're like, oh, that's cool. And really I had this problem and I was trying to solve this problem. So I'm coming at you in a different way. What I'm trying to say is I'm getting the same points across, but I'm getting them across in a different way, if that makes sense. Or I may just focus on a different point altogether. So that would be how you could solve for messaging fatigue, is you just say different stuff in the ads, and then also, of course, test different faces as well. That would be another thing you could try. And then lastly, this is going to be, last but not least, this isn't really ad related specifically, but this is going to be if you have a product or a website issue. So these issues can be very complex too. So say you got a product and half the lids that your customers are getting don't work. Well, that can probably affect your ad performance after a long enough period of time. So if your customers are not happy, you're not inspecting the products before you send them out and they've got issues and you're having manufacturing issues that you aren't able to fix, that can be a big problem. Now, website issues, what happens with website issues? It can be the smallest thing, the smallest freaking detail. You could add some upsell app to your website. Let's say you add an upsell app to your website, and then now all of a sudden your add to cart to initiate checkout rate drops. And so now your initiate checkouts, you're only 20% of the people who add to cart are initiating checkout or something. And maybe it's because you added an app, or it could be because you raised your prices without testing it. So there's various things that you'll pick up on just from being faced with these problems and then having to solve them to keep moving forward. You're going to be faced with new problems as you go. And so that's why it can be very beneficial to have somebody who's already seen those problems and knows exactly what to do and exactly how to spot them and can give you the shortcuts, quote unquote, on what you got to do to fix the issue. So if you guys found this helpful, drop the word scale below. Drop the word scale below with your brand name if you're with a brand, and I will maybe send you a surprise for watching the video. So comment what you want to see next. Drop the word scale below if you're still watching this with your brand name, and I will check your brand out, see if you're a good fit. And if you are, I will send you something special for commenting your brand name. So with that being said, subscribe for more, and that'll be it for this one.